feel very called to become a member of the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
A tremendous Tuesday to each and every one of you. If you all could be in the studio, you would be so entertained right now. It's Open Line Tuesday. We talk pro-life topics on Tuesdays with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan. If you've got a question or a comment for Barbara, the number's 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985. That's 1-205-271-2985. Or you can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com. I'm Jack Williams. Elena Rodriguez produces the program, and your call screener is Mr. Matt Gubensky. I want everybody to pull up a chair, sit around the fire. I have a public apology to make to our host, Miss Barbara McGuigan.
Oh, you do not.
I do, because I've been Barbara has enlightened me, and I have been, and it's not just with you, Barbara. It's with any number of people. I have been completely and totally misusing a word in our English language.
Oh,
I am
okay.
frequently known to use the word pontificate. And I always meant it to mean just speaking authoritatively about something. But apparently the actual definition of the word comes with a lot more negative connotations than that. And for that, I apologize, Barbara. That was not my intention.
I never thought you meant it in the negative sense, but I was afraid someone else might.
Yeah, I was. Well, when I read it, I'm like, and I went online myself, I'll be honest, to check and make sure of it. I was as stupid as I thought I was, which I was, and yeah, it's got some pompousness and some other stuff associated with it that I did not intend to project onto you, Ms. McGuigan.
No
so
worries.
for that, I apologize. And
it's never to say I'm never pompous either.
And you will enlighten us from now on. You will no longer pontificate. So
okay, I'll buy that.
A change that we'll make. So 1-800-585-9396 if you've got a question for Barbara McGuigan. And Barbara, you have got, first of all, I want to announce that we're going to pre-tape a program at the end of this show. So if you're still on the line at the end of the program, feel free to hang on, and we will get to you when we go to pre-tape the next show. It'll play here in a couple weeks when Barbara and I will both be unavailable to do the show. But if you've got a question right now, we've got a couple lines open at 1-800-585-9396. All right. We touched briefly on this whole bright flash of light at the moment of conception notion.
Right.
And I think you wanted to kind of clear that up a little bit.
Well, it's amazing because human life begins in a bright flash of light when a sperm meets an egg, and that's at conception. And this is just amazing. It's just amazing. But unfortunately, this has a downside, Jack, and I started right away to think about ultrasound technology, because that was a cutting-edge breakthrough that turned into a double-edged sword. It saved lives. It could even alert the doctors that they would need to do surgery on an unborn baby in the womb, and they found that out through ultrasound. But it also became a search and destroy mission for babies with disabilities. And so this is the downside of the discovery of the bright flash of light when human life begins as a sperm meets the egg. But scientists, it's so amazing. They actually captured this. They call it astonishing fireworks. The exact moment of conception, when life begins. And they got this on film. It's amazing what we can do these days. So, but here's the problem. The brighter the flash burns, okay, that tells them that they're more likely to produce a healthy baby. So, and this was at Northwestern University, which is in Chicago, and I think they have another
somewhere else.
At
Evansville, Illinois, suburban Chicago.
Evansville, okay. And so they are hoping, this is what they're hoping, is that this discovery could help fertility doctors to pick the best fertilized eggs to transfer during in vitro fertilization. And, those who have faith and reason are very much aware the less bright embryos, what's going to happen to them? They're disposed of. So it's sad, it's just really sad that has to be the case. And, and then, of course, we're talking about Chicago there, but Hillary Clinton was campaigning in Indiana over the weekend, and she made it very clear that she has no love for the new pro-life law in Indiana that protects unborn babies who have Down syndrome or any other kind of disability as well. And she said, and I'm quoting her, "I will defend a woman's right to make her own health care decisions. I'll tell you, I'll defend Planned Parenthood against these attacks, and I commend the women of this state, young and old, for standing up against this governor and his legislature." I mean, we're talking about embryos being disposed of in the bright flash of light, and now we have politicians, and I'm thinking to myself, remember, this new law was signed by Governor Mike Pence. We talked about this back in March. To ensure that unborn or miscarried babies would be cremated or buried, and another requirement that abortionists who have hospital admitting privileges, Jack, would renew those privileges annually. This law is supposed to take effect on July 1st. And as you can well imagine, just hours after the law was signed, the ACLU filed a lawsuit against it, seeking to overturn it in court. So the forces of evil are against us. We come up with this bright light, flash of light at conception. We've been saying forever that life begins at conception. But there's still the folks who are so blind that they refuse to see. That's what it comes down to. Mm-hmm.
We've lost our minds, Barbara.
Yes,
I'm afraid, to a certain degree.
Professor Rice said that too, Jack. He said we've not only lost our faith here in this culture, but we've lost our minds.
Just getting started on an open line Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan. Couple lines open for you at 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. Open line Tuesday with Barbara McGuigan.
I'm Raymond Arroyo with Mother Angelica, A Remarkable Life. In the early 50s, this monastery behind me, Sancta Clara in Canton, Ohio, would host something called interracial days. These were Sundays set aside for black and white Catholics to celebrate Mass and pray together. It was considered progressive at the time. To a nun inside these walls, Sister Angelica, this would profoundly shape her future life. It sensitized her to the racial tensions erupting all over the country and would be partly responsible for her later founding of a monastery in Birmingham, Alabama. Stay with EWTN as we celebrate the life of Mother Mary Angelica.
Podcasts of Open Line are available within 24 hours of live broadcast. Go to EWTN.com and click on Multimedia. Thank you for listening to EWTN Radio.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Hey, a great big congratulations to our own Father Joseph Mary Wolf, who celebrates today his 29th anniversary of entering religious life. Congratulations, Father Joseph. He has been so instrumental in the lives of so many people, and certainly especially instrumental in the life of our family here in the last couple weeks. Thank you, Father, for all that you do, and congratulations. And happy anniversary, 29th year. Father, it doesn't look like he's 29 years old, let alone that he'd be celebrating his 29th anniversary. So congratulations to Father Joseph Mary Wolf. One little bit of housekeeping. Evansville is in Indiana. Evanston is where the university, or where Northwestern University is located. So
Okay.
all you Wildcats, don't call and tell me that I was wrong, because I acknowledge that I've screwed that up. So Evanston, Illinois, in suburban Chicago is where you'll find Northwestern University. You ready to head to the phones, Barbara?
Sure, absolutely.
Joe is in the great state of New York. He's listening to EWTN on the station of the Cross. Joe, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Joe.
Hello, Barbara.
Hi there. How can we help?
Well, this is my first time ever calling your show.
Great.
And I've heard some, and I really appreciate the pro-life stance that this particular broadcast takes care of.
Thank you.
I'm a married man. My wife's name is Mary, by the way.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
we're Joseph
Mary and Joseph, I love it.
Mary and Joseph. Jack, only you would remember that.
And it's amazing how many people at church don't get it. But my wife has a very pro-choice point of view. And quite often we get in very, very emotional, heated discussions over it.
Oof, that's
We'll just
tough.
plain call it arguments.
No.
And my basic principle, when I wasn't so religious or a believer for being pro-life in the first place, was I once was a fetus. And I was born in 1973, that remarkable year. So my mother could have legally had chosen to get rid of me. Praise God, she didn't. So my wife supposedly says, well, I would never have an abortion, but yet we both agreed we're older, so we never would have children.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of later in life for us. But when we get down to the brass tacks of our discussion about it, it comes up once in a while, and it's always there. She says to me, I set her back. I set womankind back 100 years.
Oh, my goodness, because you're pro-life?
Because I'm pro-life.
Oh, well, I mean, my goodness, abortion has been around since pagan days, but I think you're setting them ahead over 2,000 years.
I think it's been around since what? Pre-Diluvian period.
Well, they talked about it in the Didache, and that goes back to just a few years after Christ. So I can't imagine that you're setting any women back. Tell me this. Maybe you don't know, though, Joe. Maybe you don't know. Did she ever have an involvement with abortion in any way? Did she take someone to a clinic, or did she advise someone to do it? Did she defend the woman's so-called right to choose? I always say right to choose what, Do you know that?
That's funny, because my argument quite often is like, we always have the right to choose to murder. Yeah. But we don't.
No.
And she doesn't like that argument.
Okay.
She gets very angry, very defensive. And
God love her, when this happens, Joe, usually a person has had some kind of involvement. Either they've had an abortion themselves that they've kept tucked away, just suppressed, stuffed it, their whole life.
That might make sense, but I don't know. And if she herself has, or is associated with somebody very close to her who has, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Because of my stance, she won't reveal that to me, I'm sure.
Well, you should ask her. She's your wife. I mean, you should ask her. There's no reason why she can't tell you, because, St. Thomas Aquinas said the first response to truth is anger. And whenever I would give any kind of a presentation, and it was going to be on abortion, I would always state what St. Thomas said, and I said, so you know what? If anyone in here becomes angry with what I'm going to give you, because I'm going to give you fetal development facts, because if you don't know about the humanity of the unborn child, you'll never understand the inhumanity of abortion. But I would give them permission to be angry with me. Oh, trust me, they would get angry with me, but I would never talk any louder than I'm talking to you right now. It was just a conversational tone that I always used, so no one felt threatened. But then I would talk about how God's healing love and forgiveness is open to every last one of us, even the mother and father who decide to abort their baby. And this is when I always got them then, because they were suffering. They were angry at themselves, and sometimes even angry at God. He can take that. He can take it. And so you have to understand that your wife may be dealing with something. Maybe she drove a girlfriend to the clinic. Maybe she had one. Who knows? But if you can get her to open up to you on this and ask her, honey, what is it about abortion that makes you so upset? Because no sin is too great for God to forgive. Even the aborted mother, he loves them and he loves their babies. Approach it this way rather than approach it as, you have to come across loving and charitable. But there's a difference between justice and charity. Okay, we all know what charity is. But justice means we have to change what is unjust. We have to change laws and we have to change structures. You see, and sometimes that changes relationships too. You have to change relationships too. So, Pope John Paul II, St. John Paul, said this in a talk once. He talked about the structures of sin. We have to knock down the structures of sin. And maybe that's what needs to be done with your wife. It's hard. It's hard when it's your spouse.
It's difficult. Thank you. I have to admit, I have never considered it that way, because I've always considered it drawing the line in the sand.
There you go.
And
yeah. Well, who doesn't want to do that? I'd like to have a line clear across this country, but it wouldn't do much good. You have to speak the truth boldly, which I do, but I hope to God and I pray to God always with charity. Because these poor souls were not formed in what is good, true, and holy. They didn't know about, as I said earlier, about fetal development and that their own heart began to beat 18 to 24 days after conception. And this is what an abortion does. It flatlines an unborn baby's beating heart. Everybody knows that. It's scientific. All right, good man?
All right. Thank you, Barbara.
Hey, Joe, make sure that she knows that even if you don't see eye to eye on this issue, that she is still your favorite former fetus.
That's wonderful.
Okay, God bless you, Joe.
God bless each of you. Thank you.
Okay.
Next stop for us is Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Juan is in Broken Arrow listening to EWTN on St. Michael Catholic Radio. Juan, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Juan.
Hi, Barbara. How are you doing today?
Great, thanks. How about you, good man?
Good. Barbara,
right.
I called today with more than a struggle than a question.
Okay.
About the Catholic teaching with anti-contraceptives. And how, of course, I can see the horrible damage that it does on married couples and everything.
Good,
But when you talk about the generation of those teenagers that just don't see eye to eye with us, I feel like repressing that anti-contraceptive education can eventually lead to somebody considering, an abortion, because if they didn't perform safe sex. Then I feel like that's more the kind of people that would consider an abortion. So in my mind, if it's going to stop prevent an abortion in the future,
right.
what's the hurt there?
Okay, and you know what, Juan? You sound like a very sensitive man. And I appreciate that, and I get your question. And a lot of people ask that question. A lot of people do. First of all, you mentioned if they don't practice safe sex. One, there's no such thing as safe sex. You know why?
Why?
Because there's no such thing as safe sin. This is what our young people are not being taught. They're being taught, you have a right to take part in the marriage act. This is what I always call it with the kids, because they go, marriage act? What in the world is she talking about, marriage act? By the end of the day, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They believe because they've been taught that sex outside of marriage should be celebrated. It's a wonderful thing, and it is. And it is. But outside of marriage, it is a fire that just causes much destruction in every path in its sight. And so, but your question about, well, let them use contraception then. Many of the contraceptives, Juan, and I bet you already know this, many of them abort. Did you know that? Many forms of contraception, birth control pills, RU-486, Plan B, Depo-Provera injections. There's a lot of class action lawsuits on that one now because it put big holes and the women couldn't get these little matchsticks that they put in their arms. Scar tissue grew around them. They couldn't get them out. And all of these have serious side effects on the woman as well. They'll kill the baby too, but they have serious side effects on the women, especially today because the RU-46, the mifepristone, it is so bad that now the Obama administration, of course, wants to make it available. That it's called mifepristone. They want to expand the use of this baby-killing drug that not only kills babies, but it's a poison that has harmed more women and children at risk. And so this is why now, even in our Congress, Juan, I know you didn't ask all this, but I want to tell you all this so you know how serious contraception is. Because most of the contraceptives that they use today are abortifacients. Have you ever heard that word before, abortifacient?
Nope.
Okay, good. I'm so glad you called, Juan, because this is what we need to know. That things like the birth control pill, all birth control pills, have the potential of aborting a newly conceived life because they alter the lining of the uterus, which is supposed to be soft and cushy, right? So the baby can implant. You and me, Juan, we both spent, and everyone else listening, every person in the universe, we spent 7 to 9 days after our conception. The flash of light took place too. After our conception, we spent 7 to 9 days tumbling down our mom's fallopian tube in order to implant, to embed in the wall of the uterus. See, that's our food source. That's our food source. We meet our mom, finally. We meet the food we need to grow, right? But not if you take RU-46 and birth control pills. Maybe it won't happen every time, but it's a very great potential that it will eventually. And this makes the lining of the uterus that's supposed to be soft and cushy as hard as a rock, Juan. So when this newly conceived life tries to embed, to implant, it's like meeting a rock, trying to embed in a rock. It's impossible. It's an early abortion. But now what they want women to do is buy RU-486 over the counter, Plan B, over the counter, and the mother becomes her own abortionist. She has to put those pills in her mouth. My heart bleeds for those women, those poor moms, Juan. Because so many of them don't know what they're doing. What did Jesus say on the cross? Forgive them, Lord. They don't know what they're doing. So contraception is the gateway to abortion, Juan. The same mentality for abortion is needed for contraception. Just the mentality alone says, I will prevent birth, and when it comes to abortion, I will prevent birth at all costs, even if it means ripping my child from my womb piece by living piece. Hey, I didn't want this kid in the first place. This is a mentality. It's a sick mentality, Juan. And I see we're down to the last minute mark here before a break. So I thank you for calling, and I hope you understand the things that I've said because possibly you never had the opportunity to hear it. And I encourage you to keep listening, okay? Keep listening because you don't want a woman to hemorrhage, to have severe infections, and even deaths because of the pills that they have been taking, right? Okay.
Thank you, Juan. Appreciate the
gets
phone
had
call.
enough.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. We're talking the life issues today on Open Line Tuesday with our very own pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck, the host of EWTN's Bookmark, and I wanted to tell you about a new book, Praying with Mother Angelica, Meditations on the Rosary, the Way of the Cross, and Other Prayers. It's a wonderful new book available right now. Order it today.
To get your copy of Praying with Mother Angelica, log on to our web store, EWTNRC.com, and type in item 80008, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
60 Seconds with Father Mitch Pacwa.
It's not just enough to hear the word and to preach it, but we also have to have an obedience to the word of God. That's also why we have this urgency about doing the things that our Lord says. St. James says, not just hearers of the word, but doers of the word. Not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but those who do all the words that I say. Because he'll otherwise say, go away, I never knew you. Do you want Jesus to say, I don't know you? That's not going to be a happy moment if it happens. You want him to say, I did know you. So every one of us disciples is called personally by name. Jesus does know you, of course, but only if you do his word is it going to be reciprocal.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
It's the start of a new day for Morning Catholic Radio.
Love has been such an overused word. Like almost has more significance today. You know, for example, I was in a retreat and the priest says, remember, he says, God doesn't just love you, he even likes you.
Not on Facebook. We're not talking Facebook here.
Morning Glory, Catholic from the start. Weekday mornings, 7 Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Bishop John Brungart of the Diocese of Dodge City.
This is Colin Donovan, Vice President for Theology.
This is Father Larry Richards, host of Open Line Thursday. Thanks for listening to EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
As we continue our walk through the season of Easter, we've got a terrific episode of Mother Angelica Live Classics tonight. Mother will talk about the road to Emmaus, where Jesus revealed himself in the breaking of the bread to the disciples that were walking on the road to Emmaus. And that's tonight at 8 Eastern on EWTN Radio and television. Mother Angelica Live Classics tonight. Back to the phones we go. Anthony is in Nassau County, New York, listening on EWTN.com. Anthony, thanks for holding on. You're on with Barbara.
Hi,
Barbara.
Anthony. Hi.
How are you, Barbara?
I'm fine, thanks. How about you, good man?
Good. Thank you for your wonderful defense of life, and it's so refreshing to hear.
Oh, praise God. We praise God. And we can't do one good thing without God. You know what, Anthony?
Right. I have an easy pop quiz question for you.
Uh-oh. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's my understanding at the precise moment, instant of life, where sperm and egg unite, there is a guardian angel that is assigned that life. So my question is, in the subsequent minutes or seconds after that instant, if the egg splits and becomes twins, do we have two guardian angels, or does the same guardian angel stay with both eggs?
Well, you know, I can't imagine why we couldn't have two. Can you imagine one guardian angel trying to just take care of two kids? I mean, but here's what I think about this, because I always quote this in my retreats, Matthew 18:10. See, and this is Jesus talking, Anthony. Right. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels always behold the face of my Father who is in heaven. Now that's something, boy, you got to think about. And that's Jesus defending unborn life too. Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't he defend his precious children in the womb, growing in the womb? That means that every day, 24/7, we, each one of us, has our own personal guardian angel before the throne of God for us. I mean, it gives you chills kind of when you think about that, because it's just such an amazing thought. But then our catechism in 336, if you want to look this one up, it says, from its beginning until death, Lord, we know a flash of light, explodes when the sperm meets the egg. That's got to be a beginning. From its beginning until death, human life is surrounded by their watchful care, talking about the guardian angels, and intercession, thanks be to God. That's me talking, not the catechism. Then the catechism says, beside each believer stands an angel as protector and shepherd, leading him to life. Already here on earth, the catechism says, the Christian life shares by faith in the blessed company of angels and men united in God. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this, Anthony, right?
Very beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. So, you got to really think about your guardian angel. I had a wonderful priest I was talking to once from the Angelorum. It's something by the Vatican. I can't think of all the words, what it's called, but Angelicum maybe? Yeah, something like that. But he told me that often people actually name their angels. They can have a name for their angels. I mean, why not? They're with you every single day. So, I think that might be a good practice. And not only that, when you do come up against some serious fear, let's just put it that way, fear. I remember one time I was driving up we lived on top of this mountain, right? And we had to drive up a very windy, beautiful in the daytime, but at night there were no lights. And it was my first time driving back up to this house at night. And I was holding onto the wheel so tightly, and I thought, this will be a miracle if I get up here. And I made it. I ran into the house. I shut the door. And you know how you just fall back on the door and you breathe. You exhale, finally. You exhale. And I closed my eyes, and I saw myself sitting behind the wheel, and this huge white being. I only saw the side of the face with beautiful hair, sitting shotgun. I'm going, whoa. I never even considered that my guardian angel would be sitting shotgun, Anthony, for Pete's sake. So that's an angel story that I can tell, and I can see it today. I can see the same image I saw. I wasn't even thinking about angels to close my eyes and see one sitting shotgun. I wasn't even thinking that. I was scared to death. So that's just a little angel story for you, Anthony.
Beautiful.
All righty. God bless you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for calling.
Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Next stop, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Bob is in Milwaukee listening to EWTN on WSFI. Bob, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Bob.
I have a puzzle for you, Barbara.
Oh, gosh.
It's Quiz Barbara Day. I love it.
Right.
The Catholic Church adheres to something called which allows in a situation, social or political, for a country to...
Whoops. You know what? Bob keeps breaking up. I'm only getting every other word. How about you, Jack? Can you hear what he's saying?
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a bad cell connection there.
Okay, can you hear me?
There you go, Bob. Go ahead.
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
So the Catholic Church adheres to the just war theory, which states that in a situation where there is social, political problem, a country may send folks to another country to basically take lives because of the situation. And the Catholic Church allows that.
Are you talking about ISIS, Bob? Are you talking about ISIS?
I'm not at all talking about ISIS. I'm talking about the just war theory of the Catholic Church, which was passed in a resolution some years ago. I don't have the year on that. But isn't that exactly the exercise of pro-choice right there? That we're looking at a teleological ethic and saying, look, it's not the best thing. We don't like to kill people, but we are in a situation where that might be needed for our country's security or another country's security or the cause of freedom or what have you. That's pro-choice right there.
Well, what's wrong with pro-choice?
Why the contradiction in the Catholic Church with the abortion issue?
Oh, well, here's the thing. Pro-choice, we have a free will. We can accept God's law of love or we can reject God's law of love. But we do also have a legitimate right to defend ourselves, right? Would you agree with that, Bob?
I heard passive that if it came down to breath.
Okay, but if ISIS was at your door, knocking at your door, because they are at our borders, okay, so that's not uncanny that they one day could be at our door. Would you not want to defend yourself and your family and your kids?
So you're saying that if a bad guy came to the door and your life was threatened, that you might have to take another life. So what you're doing is, if that is your position, Barbara, that's an inconsistent ethic with your position on abortion.
Well, no, I disagree with that. Because a baby, a mother, there are no two closer people in the world, Bob, than a mother and her baby. You can't hurt one without hurting the other. You can't help one without helping the other. The mother is not defending herself against a little unborn baby with a beating heart at 18 to 24 days after conception. This baby loves this mother. This baby, if it can pray enough, and why can't it if it has a guardian angel, if it can pray that this mother will not take its life. This is not an enemy. This baby's not something you defend yourself from. This is a gift from God. See, this is what people get confused about because they don't understand the teachings on this. Do you ever read, Bob, any encyclicals?
I have read summaries of them.
Okay, well, that's good.
The situation with taking the life of another human being, whether it's a mother and child situation,
you can't hold that together, though, Bob.
Sister on the planet, we're both humans.
We're all human, there's no doubt about it. But sometimes humans want to do us in. The baby doesn't want to do the mother in. The baby's not an adversary to the mother. That's flawed logic right there.
I did not use the term adversary. What I'm looking at is the logic of issuing a situational choice.
What I would like you to do is read St. John Paul the Great's encyclical, Evangelium Vitae, the Gospel of Life. Read this article and call me back. Encyclical, rather, and call me back. Because this is excellent. This will give you more wisdom. You've got some wisdom. And if you read summaries, that's more than most people do about encyclicals. So I really like you, Bob, but I want you to get more wisdom. It's all about wisdom. Okay?
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. 1-800-585-9396. A couple lines open for you and plenty of time for you to talk to our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, here on EWTN's Open Line Tuesday.
and welcome to a special EWTN Bookmark Brief. I'm here with Dr. Monica Miller, talking to her about The Authority of Women in the Catholic Church, published by Emmaus Road. You can look for that interview in the future, but Doctor, give us a quick 1-minute brief on what your book's about.
Well, this book is, Doug, is an exploration, ultimately, really, of the covenant of redemption, as it is differentiated between the authority of men and the authority of women in the church. And since there's so much controversy about, well, what is the meaning? I mean, maybe we got the male thing settled, but what's the meaning of feminine authority in relationship to Christ, the Redeemer? And so I explore, in particular, for example, that the church is feminine. And does that mean then that we're talking about just a poeticism, just a symbolic way of talking, or is there something actually essential there, in which case women exemplify and express the true nature of the church in relationship to Christ, the bridegroom? So we want to explore those ideas and help women understand their role and their mission in the church in relationship to Christ.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miller. Look for the complete interview. This has been an EWTN Bookmark Brief.
Making a difference. EWTN Radio.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Be sure to keep it right here after our program. Cresta in the afternoon, coming up next at 4 Eastern, and then at 6 Eastern on most of these EWTN-affiliated stations. 2 hours of Catholic Answers Live, hour number 1, an open forum with founder Carl Keating, and in hour number 2, an open forum with Chief Evangelist Tim Staples at 6 Eastern. Back to the, we'll go back to the phones in just a moment. Before we get back to the phones, though, Barbara, the Catholic hospital system in California is under siege by the ACLU of Northern California and the California Medical Association.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. But I just want to put a P.S., if you don't mind, Jack, with Bob's call, because I'm hoping he's still listening. I'd like him to pick up his Catechism of the Catholic Church, and look up legitimate defense. That's 2263, paragraph 2263, where it says the legitimate defense of persons and societies is not an exception to the prohibition against the murder of the innocent that constitutes intentional killing. The act of self-defense can have a double effect: the preservation of one's own life and the killing of the aggressor. The one is intended, the preservation of one's own life. The other is not. So it's very good, and it goes on, and I won't get into all this now, but it talks about how it can be, legitimate defense can be not only a right, but a grave duty for one who is responsible for the lives of others. The defense of the common good requires that an unjust aggressor be rendered unable to cause harm. Hello. So, I mean, this is what we're talking about with ISIS and you know, the whole just war theory. And I realize sometimes the just war theory is not heeded by governments. My goodness. I realize that totally. But the church makes the claim, states the claim, the truth, and then has to defer to governments when it comes to war. A church doesn't declare war, put it that way. Okay? So, all right, Jack, I hope that was all right to insert that in there, and I hope Bob was still listening. Okay, religious freedom, under attack. Okay, the California Medical Association, as you mentioned, is teaming up, this is here in California, to join the ACLU of Northern California in its lawsuit against a Catholic hospital system, not just one hospital, over one of its facilities' refusal. We brought this up on the Good Fight on Open Line. The facility's refusal on religious grounds to allow a doctor to perform a tubal ligation after a planned C-section. Do you remember that, Jack, when we talked about that?
I don't, but it doesn't surprise me.
Okay, no, well, that's okay. But the Catholic Medical Association is saying it's illegal for Dignity Health, that's the system, that to intervene. They own all these hospitals, Catholic hospitals, and they can't intervene. It's illegal. So now they are involved in at least a half a dozen lawsuits. And this is the first time that they've moved to take legal action against an entire hospital system of 29 hospitals. Should anyone think that our religious freedoms are not under attack anymore? Please. It's being stepped up considerably. So much so that now, because the Obama administration expanded use of the baby-killing drug that not only kills babies but is a poison to the mother, okay, we're talking about mifepristone. Chris Smith from New Jersey, he and Senator James Langford of Oklahoma sent a letter to the FDA questioning the agency's recent move to relax its protocols for administering RU-486. Because guess what? They want Catholic hospitals to do this too. Because it already has shown serious adverse events, including hemorrhaging, severe infections, and even deaths of mothers who've taken it. It was found in 2011 that chemical abortions carry substantially higher rates of medical complications than surgical abortions. So, I mean, there you go. I mean, that's just, we have to keep stepping up and taking care of this. And so our lawmakers, our Catholic lawmakers, and who knows, I don't know about Mr. Langford, Senator James Langford. Do you, Jack? I don't know.
I don't. I know Chris Smith very well, but...
Yes, yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking that our religious freedoms are really under attack. And, you know, I want to thank profusely, and we'll talk about this more in our next tape show, but brilliant, Tony came up with a brilliant idea Tony Wolber, to offer a mass up for David Daleiden, because they are really trying to stick it to him. And he has the forces of evil. He needs the devil to do it. So I'm going to give a rundown about that on the next show that we're going to tape that will air not next Tuesday. You'll have me again next Tuesday, but the one after.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. Still time for your phone calls. 1-800-585-9396. Barbara, tell us about Blessed Jose Luis Sanchez del Rio.
Oh, my goodness. Well, it's a perfect follow-up, Jack, for this whole idea of our...
You know when my birthday is?
No.
October 16th.
Oh, he should become your patron saint.
Do you know what happened on October 16th, 1978, my 16th birthday?
No.
Pope John Paul II was installed as Pope.
My goodness, you are so special, aren't you?
How about that?
I think it's amazing. Well, Blessed Jose Luis Sanchez del Rio. And I wish I could say it the way Elena does, because she says it so beautifully. Elena, say that. Say his name for us, will you please?
Oh, okay. Blessed Jose Luis Sanchez del Rio.
See, she's got that del Rio. I love that whole thing. Okay, well, here's the thing. Thank you, Elena. In 1927, I don't know how many of you saw the movie For Greater Glory, because there was just a stunning clip of Blessed Jose Luis. In 1927, Catholic Mexico, remember, was immersed in a violent storm of religious persecution. One of my painters is actually named after Plutarco Calles. He was the president of Mexico at the time, and he hated the Catholic Church. His hatred had no limits. He killed priests, he burned churches, and if you haven't seen For Greater Glory, try to get it on Netflix or something like that, because it is awesome. So, in legitimate self-defense, okay, here we go. We just talked about this. Countless Catholics took up arms, as they have the right to do, to defend their faith. And whenever they charged into battle, the Cristeros, as they were called, I kind of got a little roll there, right, Jack? They shouted, "Viva Cristo Rey!" Long live Christ the King.
Que viva!
Que viva! So many Catholics shed their blood in this conflict. Many were martyred, and Blessed Jose Luis Sanchez del Rio was among them. And he was captured because he gave his horse to one of the Cristero generals. Prudencio Mendoza was his name. And so the general took his horse so he could continue in the battle. And Jose was arrested. What do you say arrested? He was attacked. And they threw him in a sacristy because that's where they turned the sacristy, the church sacristy, into a prison. And one of the guards put a number of expensive fighting roosters, can you imagine, inside the church for safekeeping. And Jose could not stand this. He said, "This is not a barnyard. This is a place for God." So, long story short, he caught all the prize roosters and snapped their necks, and that did it for him. So the enemies of Christ the King soon decided to kill this 14-year-old boy. So on the way to his execution, the soldiers struck him savagely with sharp machetes. And with every blow, what did the young boy cry out? "Viva Cristo Rey!" And when he got to the cemetery, he was bleeding heavily. His torturers had also cut off the soles of his feet, Jack, and forced him to walk on salt. This is such of the devil. The boy screamed with pain, but he wouldn't give in, and as the road was nothing but rocks and dirt, the stones where he had walked were soaked in his blood. And the soldiers said, "If you shout death to Christ the King, we'll spare your life." He only answered, "Long live Christ the King, and long live Our Lady of Guadalupe." And he, of course, was then killed with the bayonet. They pierced his body, but with every stab he only shouted louder and louder, "Viva Cristo Rey." And finally the commander was so enraged at this that he pulled out his pistol on February 10th, 1928, and killed Blessed Jose on the spot. And guess what? Our Holy Father is going to canonize him on your birthday, October 16th.
Amazing.
Isn't it? Isn't it amazing? And if you saw For Greater Glory, this whole story I just told you would really come alive, because they show that whole scene. It breaks your heart, but he's a martyr, and God was, and I wonder, sometimes, Jack, I wonder if God doesn't permit no pain to occur. Obviously he had to be in pain walking on these, it's just hard to wrap your brain around it, but he got through, Jack.
Well, Barbara, thanks so much for your time. We'll hang around and do another hour. So Louise in Cincinnati, Ohio, and Diana in Gaithersburg, Maryland, hold on the line. We would love to speak to you right after the top of the hour here. We will pre-tape a show for a couple weeks from this Tuesday. So hang on the line. We'll get to you in just a moment. Barbara, thanks for your time.
Sure, Jack, and you too. God bless you, good man.
On behalf of our host, Barbara McGuigan, our producer, Elena Rodriguez, call screener Matt Kubinski, I'm Jack Williams. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join us. Back at it tomorrow, Carlo Broussard from Catholic Answers filling in for Father Mitch on Open Line Wednesday. Until we get together then, God bless.